winsome smiles and all that. We didn't ever really expect to see anybody that came on like a cave woman. And the fact is that she was such a mighty singer, but also she was sort of innately so rock and roll. I mean, she was the rebellious kid, the bad girl, the one that the other girls' parents didn't want them to go anywhere near because she would have been a terribly bad influence on them. Which is not to say that she wasn't actually, when you were with her and knew her, a delight. I mean, she was great. I mean, she knew what she was doing, and she played it like all great rock performers do, with a certain theatricality. But you didn't want to cross her. You didn't want to ever get on her bad side. And her relationship with Mark McEntee, the lead guitarist of the Divinals, with whom she was in a relationship with at times, and then she was a mortal enemy of it at other times, was one of those sort of relationships that will go down, in history. I mean, there was something, you wouldn't want to be in the same room. I remember I wrote a cover story on Chrissy for the Australian magazine some years ago, and Rick Grossman, the bass player in the band, and later in the Hoodoo Gurus, gave me a lovely anecdote. And he said that you could have a conversation with her about something that was of no great consequence at all. He said it'd probably be months later. He said you'll be standing in a queue at an airport or something like that, and she would turn around, look, and just open up on you, just fill at you, scream, howl, and it would be about that thing you'd said months ago that you'd completely forgotten, but that she had not. So she was a volatile package.
Glenn, as well as being an extraordinary performer, beyond the performance and beyond the attitude, she and Mark McEntee wrote some of the finest crafted pop songs ever out of this country that the globe embraced.
Yeah, you've got it. I mean, look, we first heard them with, Boys in Town, which was a pretty... and then we heard, science fiction and things like that. The world heard them through I Touch Myself, which was a song which really, as far as the Americans were concerned, was a naughty song about masturbation. It was just sort of... I mean, there were songs that, the image they had, particularly engendered through video clips and the like, in America, was a sort of, virtually an X-rated band. And again, Chrissy was quite pleased to go on. What was funny is that her cousin, whom she adored, and for whom she took a lot of her lead in terms of getting into the music industry, was little Paddy, who was demure and sweet and gentle and elfin, and you couldn't imagine little Paddy ever doing anything that was even vaguely suggestive or sexy or sensual. And here she was, sort of coming out and becoming, sort of the complete opposite. Of course, Paddy adored her and was so enormously proud of her. And it's interesting that the last time I saw her and Mark actually was in a Divinals reunion. It was at the Enmore Theatre in Sydney, and she was on a stick, and she was not hurling herself around the stage and crouching and strutting and posing and all that. And then she still, she was a little defeated, but she still had a wonderful attitude about her. So over the years since then, if I've needed to know anything about her, I would, in fact, ask Paddy, and Paddy would sort of, keep me informed about, how she was. And she would be out here with Charlie Drayton, her husband, sometimes, or out in Australia. And Charlie was the drummer on the Cold Chisel reunion tour. And so now, then she went back to New York, which is where Charlie came from. But, we've watched, we've noted, and we just kept our fingers crossed that she would be able to beat all these ailments. But it hasn't been the case, and 53 is a very, very young age.
Indeed it is. Finally, Glenn A.Baker, in this ephemeral and somewhat disposable world of pop music and rock music, how do you think Chrissy Amphlett will be defined and remembered?
Oh, she will be remembered as absolute original, because she wasn't trying to be anybody else. She will be remembered as an innate, natural rock performer, and she'll be remembered for being so brave, because she didn't care who was in that audience and who they thought they were. She just savaged them. She ripped and tore and shredded, and there were reviews on her that just make for the most astonishing reading. reading, because, sort of, particularly in America where they'd never seen anything like that. I mean, even Janis Joplin, and it hadn't been like that. They still are marvelling over and saying, did we really believe what we saw? Well, the answer is yes.
Glenn A.Baker, rock historian. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us this afternoon. Much appreciated, mate.
Okay, bye.
Well, Australia's